Hey guys, today we're going to talk about training volume. We're going to talk about how often should you go to the gym to get the best results, and is there such a thing as overtraining? Okay, this is all very important stuff if you want to meet your goals and to reach your full potential when it comes to putting on muscle. Now, I've probably learnt most about the topic of training volume from the wizard that is Dr. Brad Schoenfeld. Now, he's widely regarded as one of the leading strength and fitness experts in the United States, and rightly so. He recently brought out this book, which is pretty hardcore, I'm not going to lie, but there's a lot of good stuff in it. And within this book is a graph on training volume. Now, I was at Newcastle University studying economics and business management. And this graph right here from Brad Schoenfeld has taught me more than every single graph and equation combined in the 3 years that I was studying economics and business management. It was an eye-opener for me. And what this graph is basically saying is that there is an optimal level of training volume which is going to get you the best result. Now, it's obviously going to vary from individual to individual on a number of different aspects, but it's basically saying that single set routines where you do basically one set per muscle group isn't really going to get you the best results. It's not yet fully known what is the upper limit, what is the ideal limit. There's no studies really clarifying this, but in general there is a point for each individual where you can reach your maximum potential. And if you go over this point, if you do more training volume, then you overdo it and you reach an overtrained state, okay, which basically means that you could potentially lose size. Now, I was having a little think about this and I actually put another graph together. This isn't Brad's work, this is just me messing about. So what it basically shows is two lines, okay? You've got a red one and a green one. If you look at the red one, that's, say for example, the original graph which Brad did, okay? This is lifestyle A. Now I'm thinking, is there a scenario where you can actually change that line and move it to the right a little bit so that by increasing volume, instead of going to an overtrained state, you can actually get bigger, obviously up to a certain point before you overdo it once again. Now in this scenario, I put two lifestyles together, A and B, okay? So if we go back to the graph, we can see that by just improving your lifestyle, you could potentially increase the volume of work that you're doing and see greater results from it. If you're lifestyle A and you try and do more volume with this pretty crappy environment which your body is in, you're just gonna overdo it and you're gonna see counterproductive results. Now, this is a representation of an individual at a set point in time. It's more than likely that as you progress and you have more years of training under your belt, you can actually deal with doing more training volume and seeing greater results, okay? I wouldn't have someone who's a complete beginner and get them doing shitloads of volume, okay? It just makes no sense. They're gonna get overtrained very easily. Now, we talked a little bit about volume and overtraining and how, obviously it's very hard to know exactly what is the right amount of volume you should be doing. But let's say, hypothetical situation that in order for you to maximize the size of a set muscle group, say for example your chest, you had to do 18 sets per week of that muscle group. So how many times should you train that muscle group per week? So we've got three situations here. You could train that muscle group 3 times per week, twice per week, or once per week. If you were to train it 3 times per week, those 18 sets would be divided into 6 sets per session, okay? And then within that session, you say, for example, you could do 2 sets of 3. If we look at the example where an individual decides to train that muscle group twice per week, they would divide those 18 sets into 9 sets each, and then in each workout, they would do 3 exercises with 3 sets each. Finally, we've got a scenario where that individual decides to do all of the sets in one workout per week. So say for example, they just spend one entire day dedicated to chest. They would then have to fit all these 18 sets into that one workout. Say for example, shown here, you'd be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 exercises. Now, I wouldn't advise doing this purely because after you've done 2 to 3 sets on that muscle, it's more than likely it's going to be pretty fatigued, particularly if you're relatively new to training or you're not that experienced. So what that basically means when it comes to doing the final few sets, you're going to be so fatigued, you're not really going to be able to lift as much as you would do normally if that muscle was fresh.
10, 11, go on, 12, 13,
So you're much better off dividing those sets across the week into, say for example, 2 workouts. That would be my ideal situation, because I could then lift more weight overall because my muscles are fresh, instead of just lifting lighter weights near the end of the session because I can't lift anymore because they're so fatigued. So you can see how if you're going to be training more frequently, or you have the availability to train more per week, then the overall work done you would do in that session would be less compared to somebody who could only go to the gym 3 to 4 times per week. Okay, so it's more than likely that, you know, I've done this before. If I can only get to the gym 4 times per week, I'm going to do more work in that session. I'm probably going to be there for an hour, 15 minutes, okay? I'm squeezing a lot more in the session itself. Whereas if I've got the availability to train every day of the week, then I'll go to the gym, but I'll do less work within that session. And I'll probably only be there for about 50 minutes or so. Now, as I've mentioned earlier in this video, it's reasonable to say that doing more volume is obviously going to see more gains. However, you can't really be in a situation where you're doing high volume all of the time. If you're trying to max out on your volume, you're going to overdo it at some point. You're going to put so much stress on your central nervous system that you'll end up being in an overtrained state. So you've got to think to yourself, right, well, how do I approach training volume? Okay, so this diagram looks to kind of clear that up a little bit for you, where you split it up into weekly cycles. So basically, week 1, you have an adequate amount of volume. Week 2, you bump up the volume a little bit more. Week 3, even higher. And then after that, you then bring the volume right back down and you do what's called like a deload week. Now, there's a number of different ways you can increase training volume, okay? How you can increase the amount of work done on a week-to-week basis. You could potentially increase the number of sets or reps. I would preferably choose to try and increase the weight on a week-to-week basis, on especially the compound movements. Alternatively, you could increase the intensity, okay? So that's how hard you're going to be training within each of those sets. So basically how close to failure you're going. Somebody who goes to the gym and, you know, no offense to them, but if they train like a pussy, you could potentially train every single day and be okay, because that low intensity means that you can train more frequently and do more sets and reps. But let's say, for example, someone who trains like an absolute madman, okay? I'd like to say I do, but I don't. There's people who they're at a different level to me. So say, for example, Dorian Yates, he would only need to train like 4 times per week because the intensity of his sessions was so insane. He was pretty much reaching, you know, his optimal level of training by just doing those 4 sessions, okay? If he was to do any more, he'd just be killing it. He'd be doing, you know, overkill, overtrained state, unnecessary. But I'm gonna wrap it up there before I ramble on anymore. So thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to check out my other social media channels. We've got Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and Facebook. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.